A crumbling hush hung over the charred fields beyond the black water, when Tyrion Lannister rode alone beneath a sky gone violet with the afterglow of dusk. Smoke still seeped from half-buried embers, where Stannis Baratheon's siege engines had once stood, but already green shoots of spring pushed defiantly through the ash. The small folk whispered that the ground here drank too much blood to bear honest harvest again, yet the dwarf who had once saved the city from ruin found hope in every stubborn blade of grass. Somewhere far to the east dragons soared, harbingers of fire and change. Somewhere nearer, golden lions sharpened steel for a war no one truly wanted. Between those distant wings and armored paws, he meant to carve a narrow road to something Westeros had not tasted in a lifetime, peace wrought by reason rather than fear. He had come with no heraldry, only a single cloak of crimson trimmed with soot-streaked black, half Lannister splendor, half the somber raiment of a penitent. His escort waited 3 miles back to keep the meeting secret. Even Podrick Payne, whose loyalty was as certain as sunrise, had been ordered to stay behind. Alone, Tyrion rode to the abandoned winepress, where the Queen Regent's raven had commanded him to present himself. Cersei trusted him no more than he trusted her, yet she had answered his letter, one he had penned after long nights poring over charters and crumbling Valyrian scrolls in Maester Balabar's torch-lit library. The winds of winter still prowled beyond the wall, but Tyrion felt a different chill, the cold breath of folly that would freeze Westeros forever if dragons and lions bared fangs instead of open palms. The winepress crouched beneath sagging beams, its stone vat stained purple by decades of harvests now forgotten. Candlelight flickered through a cracked shutter. Tyrion dismounted, adjusting the clasp at his throat, and rapped twice upon the warped oak door. Iron scraped wood. The door opened. His sister's eyes, wildfire bright, found him first. Cersei wore mail beneath a cloak of Lannister red, her hair bound in a braided crown that glimmered like poured gold. Beside her stood Sir Jaime, lantern in hand, face drawn tight with worry. Tyrion had not seen them thus united since childhood, back when lion cubs still believed their pride unassailable. "You came," Cersei said, voice careful. "Alone." "Ace promised," Tyrion replied. He lifted empty palms. "No daggers, but my tongue." Jaime exhaled, tension easing. "And no sellsword armies hidden in the reeds?" "Not today. We've all hired enough killers for one lifetime." Tyrion stepped inside, pulling the door shut against the wind. The room smelled of stale wine and damp straw, but 3 camp stools encircled a small table where a flagon of Arbor Gold waited. Tyrion uncorked it himself, poured 3 cups, and raised his own in salute. "To family, and what shred of realm remains." Cersei studied the wine but did not drink. "Your letter spoke of dragons. Speak now, plain. What bargain do you think you can strike with Daenerys Targaryen? She sets cities aflame for sport. Mendero. She frees them, sister, if the songs are true," Tyrion answered. "And she has come west, not to raise but to rule. She needs roads, dockyards, coin and harvests, just as our people need respite from endless war. I propose we offer her all 4, sealed with Lannister steel and, dare I say it, Lannister blood." Jaime frowned. "An alliance? A marriage, perhaps. Not of bedsheets, but banners. Dragons in the sky, lions on the ground. Together, we crush the remnants of the usurpers' factions, open the grain stores, and rebuild the river crossings. The reach will follow coin, the north follows survival, and the faith follows whichever wind carries its incense safely. Peace is possible, but only if we move first." "Then no." Cersei's laugh was small and sharp. "And you, little brother, would be handed to the Dragon Queen as what? A groom? I lack the requisite stature." Tyrion sipped his wine. "But I do possess a mind she values. I saved King's Landing once, despite our father's scorn. I can save it again, by surrendering it without a siege. Better an open gate than a broken gate suffocating under dragon flame." "Bane." Thunder rumbled distantly, though the sky outside was clear. Jaime set his cup aside. "Cersei, he may be right. Father is dead, Tommen gone, Myrcella gone. The lions have roared themselves hoarse. If we keep fighting, we'll have no cubs left to guard. A flicker of something, grief perhaps, crossed Cersei's face. She turned away. You ask much. Trust, capitulation, humility. The Iron Throne is mine, my right and debt of suffering. Why should I bend knee to a foreign queen? Because her dragons breathe flame, and every bolt, every scorpion you build, will cost lives better spent plowing fields. Tyrion's voice softened. Because mourning alone in victory is no victory at all. She did not answer at once. Candlelight wove gold through her hair. Shadows settled beneath her eyes. Finally she faced him. If I agree, if I grant audience to this Daenerys, what pledge ensures she honors peace? Myself, Tyrion said. I will sail to Dragonstone at dawn. I will stand before her courts and offer the keys to King's Landing, encrypted in ledgers and supply maps. I will speak the truth of what waits in the dungeons. Wildfire casks our late father hid, passages I alone know. She will see I'm worth more alive than charred. Cersei studied him a long moment. And if she sets you ablaze as a show of strength, then I die, and you fight regardless. But know this, she burns Lannister gold with me, a fool's bargain. I wager she is wiser than rumor. No. Jaime placed a hand on Tyrion's shoulder, the first fraternal touch since their parting beneath Dorne's sun-bleached walls. I will escort you. If this parley fails, we die together. House Lannister's debts will be paid in full. Cersei's jaw tightened. And I will gather the banners. But gods help you both if your silver tongue falters. Dawn rose blood-red as the lion's maw. The narrow harbor channel below King's Landing's southern cliffs parted for Tyrion's swift galley. Sails furled as the oarsmen bent to their task. Stroke steady, carrying the small party past the shattered hulks of Stannis' burned fleet. Jaime stood at prow in gleaming mail, crimson cape snapping. Tyrion, shorter even than the gunwale, leaned on the rail with quill and parchment, revising the charter he meant to present. Behind them rode a second ship, holds groaning with grain sacks, casks of sweet arbor wine, and 3 ornate coffers stuffed with gold dragons, payment in advance, proof of Lannister intent. By noon, Dragonstone's jagged silhouette rose against the horizon, a fortress hewn like talons clutching crags. Plumes of smoke spiraled from courtyards where the queen's smiths forged new spears for unsullied legions. Above all, the dragons wheeled, massive, terrifying, beautiful. Drogon's black wings cast eclipses across the sea. Rhaegal's green shimmered like a deadly jewel. Viserion, pale and spectral, trailed mist off razor scales. Tyrion's heart hammered not with fear, but wonder. In his boyhood, he had dreamed of dragons as some dream of maidens. Now they were real, and his life's value might hang upon reading the flick of a reptilian eye. A peer, armored with unsullied, awaited. Grey Worm himself strode forward as the gangplank fell, spear butt thudding once on oak in greeting. His face was as unreadable as the sphinxes of old caves. The hand of the Dragon Queen offers audience, he stated. Tyrion inclined his head. Lead on. Within the stone belly of Dragonstone, torches threw wavering light over walls carved to resemble twisting dragons. They climbed stairs that once echoed with the boots of Aegon's conquerors. At the great doors of the council chamber, Grey Worm halted. You will surrender steel. Jaime unbuckled his sword, offering it hilt first. Tyrion patted empty belts. I brought only words, good captain. Inside, the hall was vast, yet lit warmly by braziers that glowed red on black stone. Daenerys Targaryen sat upon a high chair of woven obsidian, Drogon's shadow visible through open windows behind her. She wore no crown. Her silver-gold hair fell loose over shoulders clad in charcoal scale silk. Beside her loomed Sir Barristan Selmy in snow-white plate. Missandei of Neath stood at her left, parchment in hand. Tyrion noted the poised quills, scribes to record every utterance. His gaze flicked briefly to a boy of 12 seated among the advisors, robes of maester gray too large for him. The lad's chain bore links of Valyrian steel and copper. Dragon lore and history. A child prodigy, then. One more reminder that merit ruled here, not birth alone. Tyrion bowed low. Your Grace, I am Tyrion of House Lannister, once of King's Landing, now come to petition for the realm. Daenerys studied him with eyes like chips of summer sky. I have heard your mind is sharp as Valyrian steel and twice as dangerous. Her Westerosi accent carried faint tint of long years in Essos. Speak. Convince me not to feed you to my children. He straightened. I beg you keep them hungry a moment longer. I bring surrender, not subterfuge. A murmur rippled through the gathered counselors. Tyrion unfurled his charter, its wax seals bearing the lion's head. King's Landing opens its gates. The Lannister armies swear fealty on 3 conditions. First, the people are spared sack. Second, the faith is permitted to tend its own without interference. Third, lands laid waste by war receive seed and draft beasts from the crown's purse for 5 planting seasons. Mendoza. Sir Barristan cleared his throat. You offer much for no price. Why? Because victory won by slaughter sows only the next revolt, Tyrion said. Your Grace aims to break the wheel. Wheels crack more easily on soft ground than stone. Daenerys leaned forward. And what does House Lannister gain? Redemption. He met her gaze. And a place in the dawn, you promise. Our gold buys your dockyards, our engineers fortify your roads, and our name, reveled though it may be, signals to every lord still clinging to hope of old power that the future is decided. With dragons and lions united, resistance becomes folly. She considered, fingertips pressed steeple-like. Cersei Lannister has waged war against me in absentia. Her raven called me usurper, foreign whore, butcher. Why should I trust her word now? Because she trusts mine, Tyrion replied. And because I remain here as hostage should she falter. My life for her honor. Jaime stepped forward, gauntleted hand over heart. I swear likewise. Strike my sister's banners if she breaks oath. A hush fell. Outside Drogon shrieked, the sound vast as mountains grinding. At length, Daenerys rose. Very well, I accept, in principle. Yet peace forged by ink and wax is fragile. It must be tempered by shared blood and fire. She gestured. Come with me. They followed to a wind-swept terrace where all 3 dragons perched upon ramparts facing the sea. Drogon lowered his great head. Smoke curled from cavernous nostrils. Daenerys approached, touching ebon scales, whispering in Valyrian. The beast rumbled like distant thunder. She turned to Jaime first. Step forward. The Kingslayer hesitated only a blink before obeying. Daenerys drew a small blade from her belt, not steel, but dragonglass. She nicked Jaime's palm. Bright blood welled. She pressed the bleeding hand to Drogon's snout. Steam hissed as crimson met obsidian dark scales. Drogon's eyes narrowed, but he did not flinch. Rather, he exhaled a warm breath that sealed the wound in heat, flesh knitting instantly. Jaime gasped, flexing fingers whole again. Blood given, wound healed, Daenerys said. The dragon accepts the lion. Tyrion stepped forward without prompting. She repeated the gesture. Drogon bent lower for him, as if recognizing the dwarf who once loosed him from Myrion's vaults. Tyrion's blood sizzled, healed, and was gone. No pain remained, only fierce exhilaration. Daenerys sheathed the blade. This covenant is sealed in dragonfire. Break faith, and the flame that mends will burn instead. Bedin? Tyrion bowed. May it never come to that. News of the Pact of Dragonstone traveled faster than ravens ever could, carried on sailors' tongues and the frightened boasts of deserters, who swore they'd seen lions pet dragons. By the time Tyrion escorted Daenerys through the mud gate 2 weeks later, King's Landing streets blazed with banners half crimson, half black. Small folk lined the cobbles, cheering not out of fear or blind loyalty, but numb amazement that war might actually be ending. Gold cloaks kept order under the command of Bronn, newly reappointed acting Lord Commander, after had plucked the city watch from Qyburn's corrupt grip. Bells rang, not for surrender, but for union. Cersei herself greeted the Dragon Queen on the steps of the Sept of Baelor's ruins. the building still under slow reconstruction. She descended alone, unguarded save for the mountain looming at her back. For a heartbeat, the square held its breath. Then Cersei knelt. It looked almost to break her spine, but she did it. Daenerys extended a hand. Cersei kissed the ring set with a shard of glassy red stone said to come from Drogon's egg. When Cersei rose, there were tears in her eyes. Some said they were born of rage, others of relief. Tyrion, watching from atop a marble plinth, saw only exhaustion. A mother who had lost too much and could not bear losing the city that reminded her of her children. That evening the throne room was crowded with lords and envoys summoned from every corner of Westeros. Davos Seaworth stood beside Shireen Baratheon, now risen to Lady of Storm's End. Tormund Giantsbane glowered amiably behind Sansa Stark, chosen representative of the North, while Bran ruled Winterfell as its quiet seer. Even the Ironborn sent a delegate, Yara Greyjoy, hair braided with shells, who pledged her fleet to peace so long as the Reach allowed free trade. In the gallery balconies above, small folk chosen by lottery watched history unfold, their murmurs weaving hopeful music through the vaulted chamber. Tyrion took his place beside Daenerys at the foot of the Iron Throne. The twisted chair of fused swords still loomed, but neither queen nor lioness claimed it. Instead, a new seat had been forged. Mithril bright, shaped like two wings unfurling from a lion's head whose jaws cradled a single dragon-glass flame. Symbolism woven in metal. A steward set it between them at floor level, equal height. This was the throne of accord, not conquest. Maester Samuel Tarly, newly raised Grand Maester for his work compiling the White Raven Treatise on Dragonglass and Dawn, read the Articles of Peace, grain levies, vassalage reforms, abolition of forced child marriages, the reconstruction of the Citadel's branches, in every major city so knowledge would not hoard itself. Each article passed with cries of "Ay!" that echoed loud as storm surf. When Sam spoke the final clause, abolition of trial by combat, the tradition that had cost Tyrion so dearly, Jaime squeezed his brother's shoulder. Tyrion closed his eyes, a single tear trailing down his cheek unnoticed. Yet peace, like wine, ferments under certain heat. Not all were pleased. From dusk to dawn whispered conspiracies coiled through candlelit corridors. Lord Randall Tarly spat that dragons were abominations. Septons thundered that a foreign queen who worshipped no known god could never be true protector. Tico Nestoris of the Iron Bank arrived seeking repayment schedules, his practiced smile hinting he might finance discontent if entitled interest lagged. Tyrion anticipated every tremor. He brokered coin flows from Casterly Rock's mines to the Faith's Restoration Fund. He drafted decrees guaranteeing Septries tax exemptions for feeding orphans displaced by war. He offered the Iron Bank exclusive rights to mint the new peace dragon, a coin bearing a lion's paw, clutching a dragon egg, so long as interest rates drop. He moved pieces on the board with the calm of a man weaving tapestry rather than waging war. Yet the largest piece remained unplayed, the dragons themselves. Daenerys met him on the ramparts one night beneath a low-hanging moon. Drogon basked below, wings folded like scrapyard roofs. "They fear my children," she said, arms crossed against cool salt wind. "No charter eases that dread." Tyrion nodded. "Then we must give them reason to see dragons not as weapons but as guardians." He pointed seaward. "The Stepstones teem with pirates hounding trade. Send Rhaegal and Viserion to scorch their nests, escort merchant cogs. Show the realm dragons can protect caravans, not just burn castles. And Drogon? He will remain above King's Landing, but on leash, figurative of course. Conduct flights at dawn and dusk only, never swooping low. Let the people grow accustomed to his shadow like they grow accustomed to the sun's path." "Now," Daenerys smiled, faint and fond. "You were born to dance with dragons, Tyrion Lannister. I've 2 left feet, but I manage the music." He returned her smile. "There's one last matter, your succession. Peace endures not on signatures but heirs." Her gaze drifted to the dark horizon. "I cannot have children, or so the witch told me. Witches say many things. But should dragons fail to hatch from your womb, they may hatch from words. Adopt an orphan of each great house. Raise them together under one roof. The Red Keep reborn as Palace of Unity. In 20 years, those children will ride dragons and govern lands their fathers died clawing over. Menetraner. Daenerys considered, eyes reflecting starlight. You think like a Lannister banker. Invest now, yield later. Guilty, Tyrion said. But I'd like to think I now invest in hearts, not debt. She laughed softly, then grew solemn. You've given me more than counsel. You surrendered family, risked life, bartered pride. What payment do you desire? Let me build libraries greater than Old Town, Tyrion answered without hesitation. Let every farm boy read arithmetic, every fisherman chart stars. War thrives in ignorance, peace roots in knowledge. Daenerys laid a hand upon his shoulder. Granted, the Lion of the Library they will call you. He bowed, deeply moved. And may they never call me hand again. My limbs are short enough already. The first true test of the pact struck not from Iron Islands or Reach, but from within ragged ruination of Harrenhal. There remnants of the Golden Company, jilted by the false Aegon, rallied deserters under the black banner of a crowned skull. They proclaimed themselves the Sons of the Scorch, swearing to extinguish dragons and restore pure Westerosi blood. Led by a one-eyed mercenary named Lysandro the Lash, they raided Riverland's villages, dragging Targaryen sympathizers to execution pyres. Word reached King's Landing by Raven. The towns of Lord Harroway and Maidenpool burned. Council convened at once. Cersei urged total annihilation. Jaime counseled caution. Daenerys weighed both. Tyrion proposed a pincer, unlike any field maneuver Westeros had known. It begins with Jaime's cavalry, swift, silent, surrounding Harrenhal by night, he explained, pointing to his chalk map. Meanwhile Drogon circles high, unseen. At dawn drums beat, but there will be no charge. Instead, a lone rider approaches bearing a white banner. Me, Cersei sneered. You'd ride alone into a fortress of cutthroats? With a gift, Tyrion said. A cask of fine Dornish red, laced with essence of nightshade, potent enough to fell giants. Mercenaries are parched after siege. They will drink. By dusk, half their number sleeps permanent sleep. Then Drogon appears, roaring not to burn but to frighten. Those awake will flee. Your cavalry surrounds, captures. Minimal bloodshed, maximum spectacle. Menseno. Daenerys approved. Jaime insisted on riding at Tyrion's side until the gate closed behind him. Then he withdrew to position troops. Inside, Tyrion's wit proved deadlier than poison. He lured Lysandro into boasting of greater conquests, convinced him to toast newfound comradeship, and ensured the cask was passed liberally among the men. At dusk Drogon's shadow fell. Harridan scattered like ants. Not a single dragon flame needed to fall. Terror alone sufficed. When dawn broke, banners of the Sons of the Scorch drooped over ramparts, their black dye dripping into the moat like spilled ink. The Riverlands cheered, not the dragon's fire but the dragon's restraint. Men whispered that Tyrion wielded dragons as other lords wielded quills. Ballads spread. The Peacebinder, the dragon's jester whose jokes slew armies. In taverns from Old Town to White Harbor, minstrels sang of golden lions prowling beside scaled giants across fields, thriving with harvest. For the first time in memory, young boys carved wooden dragons with lion mane saddles, imagining themselves riders of two crests. Still, the greatest challenge came not from swords but winter's teeth. Snows swept south sooner than ravens predicted, blanketing the King's Road. Grain stores ran thin. Tyrion summoned envoys, ordering redistribution. Wheelhouses laden with gold he diverted into flour shipments. Sepps melted down silver chalices to fund soup kitchens. Famine shrank, but fear grew. Into that void walked Melisandre of Ashai, flame-haired priestess, preaching the Lord of Light's favor upon Queen Daenerys. Faced with new fanaticism, Tyrion proposed temples of every faith line the capital's outer ring, none holding ground higher than its neighbor. Pagans and Septons balked alike, but Daenerys decreed it so. Diversity outshone dogma when rooflines met the same sky. Years slipped by. The throne of accord remained at floor level. No one ascended the Iron Throne, which was left to rust beneath draped velvet. Children of each great house studied together in the Royal Lyceum, overseen by Tyrion. Little Shira Martell bested Rickon Stark in arithmetic, while Edric Storm mastered High Valyrian under the tutelage of the Maester prodigy from Dragonstone. On their 14th Namadeys, each child was presented before the grown dragons to swear oaths of stewardship, not dominion. Drogon, older, calmer, allowed them to brush scaled cheeks. No wounds needed healing. The bond was born of trust alone. When Tyrion turned 50, he stood again upon the terrace where Daenerys had sealed their covenant. Snowflakes danced with salt spray. The realm he surveyed bore scars, yet within those scars wildflowers bloomed. Children chased one another through gardens rebuilt over smoldered rubble. Ships bearing both lion and dragon figureheads packed the harbor. Trade with Qarth, with Volantis, even with the Summer Isles. He heard languages he did not know, laughter that needed none. Cersei had retired to Casterly Rock, content to advise from afar. Her letters softer now, speaking of grandchildren flying kites shaped like dragons. Jaime approached, silver in his hair, gold in his easy smile. "I found him," he said, and guided Tyrion to a young boy waiting shyly. The lad was small, legs twisted at uneven length, shoulders stooped, born with bones like green saplings, doctors said. Yet his eyes were bright, and his sketchbook overflowed with images of dragons coiled around towers. "He wants to join the Lyceum," Jaime explained. "But his father fears he'll be mocked." Tyrion knelt before the boy. "What's your name?" "Martin," the boy whispered. "Martin of House Tyrell. I draw dragons because one saved my mother when pirates attacked our ship." Drogon, Tyrion finished gently. "He saved many." Martin nodded. "I want to build saddles so anyone can ride, even if they're small or broken." Tyrion's throat tightened. He looked at Jaime, memories flashing. Childhood dwarfish loneliness, Jester's cruelty. Here, in peace they forged. No child need feel that sting. He placed a hand on Martin's shoulder. "Welcome to the Lyceum, Martin Tyrell. Let's build those saddles together." As they walked back, Tyrion glanced skyward. Drogon glided overhead, wings carving slow, languid arcs, against a pale winter sun. Below, Lannister soldiers drilled beside unsullied wooden swords ringing harmlessly as they taught children footwork. Markets thrummed. The bells of the Sept and the drums of the Red Temple chimed in curious harmony. Peace, he realized, was not an end, but a story continuously told by hands both great and small. It required vigilant pens, tempered swords, and hearts willing to yield pride for promise. It had begun with a dwarf's dream, a queen's courage, a lioness' reluctant bow, and 3 dragons who had learned restraint. Where it would end, no prophecy could say. But on this day, beneath a sky gently snowing, Tyrion Lannister believed that even in a world birthed in fire and honed by blood, one might yet unite flame and gold into dawn's gentle glow, so long as voices remained louder than dragons and hope larger than lions' roar. K. Andy. The flurry of snow that had drifted lazily across the terrace the day Tyrion welcomed Martin Tyrell thickened into a full-throated blizzard. By the time the dwarf readied his lantern and began the slow descent toward the caverns beneath the Red Keep, each gust funneled through arrow slits like the roar of some slumbering beast, rattling shutters and moaning through keyholes. Most folk muttered that the storm was only winter making itself comfortable. Tyrion, who trusted numbers more than omens, marked its duration against Maester Samwell's meticulous almanacs and found it 5 days longer than any squall since the Long Night's Chronicles. He met Daenerys in the Undercity, at the mouth of a corridor, whose bricks still bore the scorch of Aerys's half-forgotten wildfire caches. She carried no torches. Drogon's faint inner glow reflected in her pupils had always been enough to guide her through darkness. But Tyrion's lantern painted warm pools of gold across the damp stone. I smelled salt and smoke inside the wind, she said, voice a little tighter than usual. Not sea salt. The taste of something deeper, older. Tyrion had tasted it too. Brine cut with iron, the scent of furnaces stoked by unsated hunger. The old mines under Casterly Rock vent that tang when the deeper veins fracture. My father called it dragon breath, and pretended he was lord of molten kingdoms. He brushed frost from his sleeves. What troubles you? Drogon will not settle. He circles above the city all night, growling and raking sparks from the clouds. Rhaegal and Viserion match his agitation even from Winterfell skies. Ser Barristan thinks it a symptom of their growing size, a need for farther ranges. Perhaps. Tyrion's thoughts whipped faster than the wind outside. Or perhaps something stirs they remember in their blood. Something that once preyed upon dragons. She studied him. You believe the tales the wildlings tell? Cold shadows on dead horses? I believe patterns. Tyrion drew a parchment from inside his cloak and smoothed it against the wall. Charcoal dots draped the coastlines like spilled seed. 3 trading cogs vanished south of Eastwatch last month. A Braavosi galley drifted aground at Skagos, her crew frozen, yet the hold spirits unspilled, and the stove still warm. Each log ended the same hour of night, each deck slick with a rime that did not melt even when exposed to hearth fire. Daenerys touched one of the dots. White Walkers. We call them others in the oldest books. He looked up. I read that a long winter once drove them as far south as the Field of Fire, where dragons turned them. If they come again, our pact will be tested by fear, not swords. Some lords already mutter that dragons deny winter its kill, that the realm belongs to the cold. She folded the parchment. Then we remind them the realm belongs to the living. The council convened at first light, though dawn's gray never brightened beyond moonlit pewter. Cersei arrived from Casterly Rock in a litter carved with lion heads, draped head to toe in sable. Her once bright hair streaked silver, but her stare as hard as garnet. Jaime rode beside her, a brace of bullfinches dusting his cloak with snow as they fought for crumbs in the courtyard. Sansa Stark sent steel-eyed Brienne of Tarth to represent Winterfell while she oversaw grain stores. Davos brought the young lady Shireen, who recited shipping manifests from memory, her voice steadier than the parchment she clutched. Samwell Tarly arrived late, cheeks crimson from the run through Gale, clutching a cracked obsidian dagger he swore throbbed like a heartbeat when pointed due north. Tyrion unrolled fresh maps weighted with copper scales. We need walls of fire and teeth of dragonglass across every mountain pass, every ford, every shepherd's path. He tapped circles around the neck. Moat Cailin is our choke, but only if held by men unafraid of what crawls beneath ice. Cersei lifted a brow. And who volunteers for such gallant service? You? Ben? Schemes offered me comfort. Winter gives me chills, Tyrion admitted. But the Northmen stand ready. And the free folk. He nodded at Tormund, who lounged against a pillar gnawing on a turkey leg. They remember the dead's breath. Tormund tossed the bone aside. We fought them and broke like twigs under stone. Wolves south of the wall think snow is a story. It's a mouth that eats fire. Daenerys traced the wall's length on the map. The free folk will have dragon backs. Rhaegal and Viserion carry leather nets of dragonglass spears. Drogon remains here to guard the heart. Ben Tao. Jaime's golden hand drummed the table. And the Lannister legions? They march, Cersei answered before Tyrion could. We guard the roads feeding the capital. Even a dragon starves if grain cannot pass the trident. Her gaze flicked to Daenerys. You saved my city. I will not watch it freeze. Agreement then, uneasy, but steel-bound. On the 23rd day of the blizzard moon, Rhaegal and Viserion thundered north beneath storm clouds that hid them from frightened eyes below. Tyrion traveled with them, bundled in furs. Parchment satchel buckled to his chest, Maester Samwell one side, Missandei the other. Drogon's size denied him shipboard. Better his rider command from the city. Tyrion's first glimpse of the wall, once a distant shimmering line on childhood maps, captured him in silent awe. A jagged glacier lit from within by wavering sapphire veins where the dead's frosted tracks climbed like fingers searching for purchase. Each night, at Eastwatch, he dined with wildling chiefs at long tables, made from salvaged masts. Around crackling hearths, they swapped rumors. Shadows seen striding through blizzards that left no footprints. Women's sighs echoing beneath frozen lakes. Entire elk herds found standing dead, eyes bright with unfallen tears. Tyrion recorded every tale, cross-referencing star positions and wind charts until patterns emerged, an invisible spiral narrowing toward Hardhome's haunted ruins. He dispatched raven after raven to King's Landing, requests for mirrored shields to blind ice spiders, for alchemists to distill wildfire into shatterglass bombs that could explode without flame, for netting woven of Myrish lace lined with dragonglass teeth. Craftsmen groaned, but gold wagons rolled. It was at Hardhome the storm finally showed its face. They sailed in silence, unsullied helms gleaming dully in gloom. Free folk archers wrapped head to heel in wolf pelts. Rhaegal circled high. Viserion glided lower, wings flaring emerald as they caught stray sunbeams that never pierced cloud. Suddenly, the sea calmed to mirror stillness, unnatural, oppressive. Frost crawled over bronze fittings in seconds, iron chains crackling as water within burst. Missandei's quill snapped mid-word. From the shore rose a sigh like old breath exhaling through catacombs. Figures stepped onto the tide-locked bay, pallid torsos with ribcages visible beneath glass-cracked flesh, hair crusted into icicles. At their forefront strode two riders on dead elk, azure eyes burning. The magisters of cold, the free folk called these white walkers, who had learned speech in languages older than trees. Tyrion ordered no arrows loosed, only observation. He counted 7 score whites, 2 walkers. A scouting party, not an army. Yet the audacity, they sensed dragons and still came. He mouthed a silent prayer to any god that listened and raised the crimson cloth that served as parley banner. Surprisingly, the lead walker lifted a spear of frozen nightwood in salute, acknowledging formality like some courtly knight. They spoke not, yet sound carried, a creak like glaciers splitting on distant shores. Samwell later insisted words formed. Children of Ash, your fire feeds the void. Tyrion heard only the crunch of his own heart. Negotiation with death proved brief. When he offered the walkers safe passage north in exchange for leaving the realm, they laughed, or perhaps the wind cracked through their skulls in mockery. The spear lifted, ice spider legs burst from the sea, and war erupted in blinding snow. Viserion dove first, green flame licking from jaws. Where fire struck, whites vaporized, but frost exploded outward, extinguishing patches mid-flight. Snow sucking hunger from flame. Rhaegal banked, jaws wide, unleashing rolling infernos that forced even walkers back. Tyrion stood on deck hurling dragonglass javelins, missing more than he hit, until Samwell shoved the cracked obsidian dagger into his hand. Pierce the rider, the maester grunted. 1 walker falls, and 100 corpses with him. Easier said. The lead walker flicked a shard of black ice. Tyrion ducked, shards shearing helm plumes behind him. Viserion landed, claws sending splintered ice flying, but the second walker rammed a spear into the dragon's foreleg. Viserion's screen shattered masts, blood hissed upon snow. Tyrion felt the world tilt. If 1 dragon died, this campaign failed. Instinct guided him. He seized a coil of line, looped it around his waist, and leapt over the railing, swinging beneath the walker's elk. The beast reared, its dead eyes whirring like broken compasses. Tyrion slashed at fetlocks. Dragonglass bit through bone. The elk crashed. The walker swung. Tyrion rolled, lantern jaw shattering against his ribs. He jammed the dagger upward into the pale armor beneath its ribs. Light burst outward, the sound of glass shattering across eternity, and the walker collapsed in a cloud of snow as fine as flour. All around, "70-odd whites dropped like puppets losing strings." Rhaegal seized the second walker in obsidian claws and flung him into Viserion's flame. Blue shards rained into the sea. Silence returned. Total. Haunting. Nisande knelt beside Tyrion, pressing cloth to his ribs. First blow struck. Against a scout, Tyrion wheezed. The army still waits. Messages flew south with the storm's own wings. In the capital, Daenerys read Tyrion's report beneath the throne's dimmed braziers, her face set in a mask of molten resolve. She convened smiths, alchemists, and faith healers, all in one cavernous cell under the Red Keep, commanding them to birth weapons the world had never seen. Wildfire encased in dragonglass phials, trebuchet stones hollowed and stuffed with obsidian shards, crossbow bolts dipped in searing green ichor that burned even on ice. Cersei oversaw rationing with iron-fisted precision. Grain trains rolled north under Lannister banners. Gold cloaks marched beside Tyrell shield maidens to deter bandits who might cut lifelines. Brienne rode circuit nightly, her grandsword Oathkeeper cleaving criminals and deserters with equal fairness when they risked the realm for a scrap of bread. Yet rumors spread that the Iron Bank financed southern lords to hold back supply until royal coffers bled dry. When Tycho Nestoris demanded higher interest citing weather delays, Tyrion, still bandaged, sent back a single chest containing the frozen head of the walker had slain, packed in salt with a note. Our collateral remains impeccable. The next morn, Braavosi warships escorted grain galleys north at no charge. The Night King revealed himself under storms, lit by green and blue lightning above Last Hearth. An avalanche of whites, giants and bears among them, slammed into Moat Caelin's rivers of dragonglass stakes. Explosions of wildfire tore canyons in their ranks, yet the dead rose again, shards jutting from hollow eye sockets. Tyrion stood on the ramparts beside Sansa and Davos, directing signal mirrors that flashed coordinates to Viserion and Rhaegal overhead. Dragonfire carved flaming trenches, but the Night King walked untouched, frost-forming bridges across rivers of flame. Then, Drogon erupted from southern skies, Daenerys astride. His roar drowned thunder, and his flame was no ordinary red or gold, but a deep, strange amethyst, a fusion born of wildfire her alchemists had distilled to burn even in void. Drogon's breath met the Night King's black frost in a cyclone of steam so thick it erased horizon. For heartbeats, the realm held its breath. Then the steam whirled skyward, unveiling the enemy's shattered ice spear. The Night King staggered, half his breastplate a molten hole. Yet he endured. With a gesture, he summoned the memory of every murdered soul. Smoke forms drifted from the mouths of dying whites, weaving into a cloak of anguished faces that wrapped him anew. He thrust his arm skyward. Icicle hail the size of oxen slammed against Dragon's wings. Rhaegal faltered, spiraling out of formation. Tyrion saw the moment history tottered. He seized a horn the free folk called Joral's wail, a relic bound in weirwood inlay that old Nan once claimed could summon the children of the forest. He blew. The sound pierced flesh and rock alike, a note older than moonrise. Forest beyond the neck shuddered. Saplings split. Pools of still water rippled into spiral glyphs. Then from bowls and barrows emerged figures small and graceful, eyes like liquid gold, leaf-clad children beneath boughs heavy with snow. They carried obsidian spears whose points glowed starlight white. They did not speak. They simply flung their weapons. Each spear curved mid-flight, guided by some silent song, and struck dead giants between shoulder blades, impaling hearts that had long ceased beating. Where the spears landed, the bodies of whites twisted back into human forms, skeletal, but at peace, and crumbled to dust. The Night King turned, confusion flickering across blue flame eyes. Drogon seized the moment. One last roar, one amethyst blaze. It pierced the enemy's breach in frostplate and burst from his back in a plume of fire that took the shape of a three-headed dragon. The cloak of whales unraveled into wind. Ice beneath their feet cracked, shattered, liquefied. In a heartbeat, the Night King dissolved into glittering sleet that rained down upon the moat walls, hissing against still-burning wildfire. Across the field, A ripple passed through the dead. Some collapsed, others staggered as though waking from nightmare. Northmen lowered pikes in confusion as former whites blinked, color returning to cheeks. The children of the forest faded into shadow, their task fulfilled. Silence. Then cheers. Not the shrieking elation of victory and anger, but a low, stunned chorus of relief. The sound a people makes when they understand tomorrow still exists. After the war, Tyrion walked the parapets of Winterfell with Sansa, counting the dead and the saved. They found Rickon among survivors, eyes pale from days trapped inside his own corpse. He collapsed sobbing in his sister's arms. Gilly nursed newborns freed from white mothers. Tormund wept into a horn of sour goat milk when Jon Snow, long missing beyond the wall, wandered in alive, leading stray direwolves and half-starved mammoths like some frost-bitten shepherd. Spring came sharper than any had foreseen. Snow melted in great torrents that filled rivers to bursting, revealing fields fertilized by wildfire ash into dark, rich loam. Tyrion's libraries expanded into traveling carts, each drawn by white horses once bred for jousts, now bearing books. Children chased them across villages, trading eggs for primers. In Old Town, the archmaesters voted to open vaults once sealed to common readers. Knowledge, they declared, was the realm's shield. But not all hearts thawed. Lord Randall Tarley refused to let dragons fly above his grain barns, claiming their shadow spooked hens. He withheld levy, causing bread riots in Highgarden. Lady Anya Waynwood argued in council that dissolving trial by combat left knights no path to prove innocence. Martin Tyrell's saddle prototypes met sabotage. Bolts loosened, harness straps sliced, before his first flight. Tyrion confronted dissent as he always had, with wine, wit, and precise pressure. He permitted Tarley to host a dragon rider demonstration that proved hens laid more after seeing dragons eat field mice. He drafted a new trial of truth where accused could stand before a weirwood heart tree. If the sap bled red, a chemical miracle his alchemists ensured, the case reopened with all evidence public. He stationed silent sisters as saddle inspectors, their vows protecting Martin's designs. Slowly, cracks sealed. Years later, on the 20th anniversary of the Pact of Dragonstone, Tyrion stood once more within the throne room, where that strange throne of twin crests had first been placed. Children of every house, now grown, gathered. Some wore dragon-hide cuirasses streaked with gold, others simple maester robes. Drogon basked on the wide terrace, wings stretched in midday sun like a living tapestry of shadow and light. His scales shone softer now, twilight to the harsh midnight of youth. Viserion and Rhaegal roosted at Dragonstone's renovated eyrie, each incubating eggs the size of ox hearts, 3 apiece, glimmering with speckles of gold and scarlet. Daenerys? Silver threads laced through braids, addressed the assembly. She spoke not of conquest, but stewardship. Dredging silted rivers, rotating crops, establishing healer halls where wildfire once smoldered. She named Shireen Baratheon, Mistress of Ships, Missandei, Counselor of Tongues, Martin Tyrell, Imperial Artificer, and presented a battered horn, Jorel's Wail, to Jon Snow as Warden of the Far North. When she finished, she turned to Tyrion. The hall quieted. Even Cersei, perched stiffly near pillars, leaned forward. "I call upon the Architect of Peace," said Daenerys, "to witness the realm's rebirth." Tyrion felt years press upon his shoulders, the weight of parchment and blade, of dead he had counted, of dreams he had bargained. He bowed, then raised his goblet. This realm endured storms that once sundered continents. We stand because we chose reason. Let us remember, peace is a bridge requiring constant mason work, or rivers of blood will drown its piers. He expected applause. Instead, the children, grown, yet still his pupils, responded as scholars, by offering proposals. Edric Storm suggested codifying river tolls under independent marshals. Shira Martell argued for shared dragon flight routes to speed courier service. Rickon Stark presented seeds bred to sprout in frost. Debate flourished lively, cordial, brilliant. And Tyrion realized his legacy was not the silence after war, but the conversation that replaced it. When evening cloaked the hall, Daenerys joined him beside windows, overlooking Blackwater Bay, where lanterns mirrored constellations across glassy water. "You never sought a crown," she said. "Yet the people toast the lion of the library more than their queen." Tyrion sipped wine. "A crown pinches. A book merely opens." She laughed. "My reign ends sooner than yours. Dragons live longer than men, but ideas outlive dragons." A hush settled, comfortable as wool. Then Daenerys slipped a small bundle from her sleeve, an egg-flecked cream and crimson, warm to the touch. "One of Drogon's last clutch," she said. "Take it. Raise the hatchling where you deem safest, library or battlefield." Tyrion cradled the egg. For a heartbeat, he was that lonely boy who lit candles before stone carvings of dragons in Casterly Rock, begging silent gods to trade his stunted body for wings. Tears blurred the world. He cleared his throat. "I will place it in the Lyceum's central atrium, among books of arithmetic and poems of love, so it hears only lessons worth learning." Daenerys nodded. "Then when it hatches, its first sight will be ink rather than iron." Outside, snow began again. Not the relentless siege of old, but tender flakes swirling between towers like confetti. Lantern light struck each crystal, turning the air to shaken diamonds. Somewhere below, Martin Tyrell and his partner, a fisher's daughter from the Shield Islands, tested a new saddle on Drogon's youngest offspring, a green hatchling who squealed delight rather than fear. Children laughed. Bells rang. Tyrion looked upon the scene and understood at last that peace was not a thing he could finish, tie with a bow, and set upon a shelf. It was a story with chapters yet unwritten, its ink the bones and breath of those willing to speak before swords unsheathed. He set his lantern upon the sill, letting its light mingle with the snow-caught gloaming, and whispered so only dragons and dreams could hear. Onward then. The next chapter awaits its author. Ain. The candle Tyrion left upon the sill flickered through the night, until dawn scattered pale gold across the Lyceum's broad courtyard. Snowmelt shimmered on marble colonnades, and the gentle murmur of students shuffling to lectures echoed beneath vaulted ceilings. He moved among them unnoticed at first, an aging lion with silver in his beard, one hand forever resting upon the warm egg Daenerys had entrusted to him. In the hush before sunrise, he carried it to the atrium's heart, where 9 pedestals of polished jade formed a circle around a fountain, whose jets shaped a spiraling script. Sapir Aud, dare to know. Tyrion knelt between the pedestals and nestled the egg upon a cushion sewn from cloth of gold and black satin, the twin colors of peace. Heat pulsed through his palms, steady as Drogon's heartbeat. He pressed a thumb against the shell and felt something stir inside, the faintest tap, a secret knocking. "Not yet, little one," he whispered. "You'll find the world worth hatching into soon enough." When he stood, students had gathered in a ring, maesters novices in gray, scions of houses in finery, sons of cobblers in plain wool. Silence reigned until a girl of perhaps 12 stepped forward, freckles dusting her nose like cinnamon. She bowed awkwardly. "Our curator," she said. Using the title, Tyrion never stopped protesting. "Will it be born tame?" "Tame?" Tyrion chuckled. "Nothing in this world worth loving is tame, child. Dragons least of all. We teach, they learn. They teach, we learn. We call that harmony, not tame." The girl smiled shyly before retreating. Murmurs spread, excited, awed, and then class bells clanged, scattering them like sparrows. Tyrion watched them go. Heart swelled with something dangerously akin to hope. Yet hope rang fragile as blown glass that very afternoon. As he pored over shipping ledgers in his oak-paneled study, a raven slammed against the window, talons scraping glass. Its left wing hung crooked. Ice caked its feathers even though the sun shone warm. Tyrion unlatched the casement. The bird collapsed on his desk with a ragged caw. A scroll, brittle with frost, bore a rune unfamiliar to Westeros. 3 concentric circles, surrounded by jagged lines. He snapped the seal. The parchment inside unfurled into dust. Only 3 words remained, burned into the fibers by some cold fire. The spiral stirs. Tyrion's breath caught. He summoned Samwell, now Grand Maester in all but name, and together they pored over every tome on northern runes. Hours passed, candles guttered, yet no match appeared. At last, Sam lifted a finger. "I've seen this mark carved on weirwoods grown beyond the shivering sea. Reports from Summer Island traders. Some say it predates the first men, maybe even the children." Tyrion frowned. "A remnant of the others. Or a seed they left buried," Sam murmured. "Something waking." Tyrion's gaze drifted to the egg glowing faintly in the atrium. The knocking inside sounded louder now, or perhaps imagination amplified it. Still, a chill threaded his spine. Dragons had ended the long night. What if whatever lingered sought first the eggs and hatchlings, the heart of reborn flame? He penned urgent ravens to Daenerys at Dragonstone and to Jon Snow in the far north, requesting reconnaissance. Then he donned his crimson-lined cloak and hurried to the courtyard, where Martin Tyrell polished his latest saddle design beneath a trellis draped in winter roses. "Martin," Tyrion said, voice low, "how soon can you fly with me as passenger?" The boy straightened, sea-green eyes bright with pride. "The new cinches distribute weight across the dragon's shoulders. Sarah can manage both of us easily." Sarah, one of Rhaegal's grown daughters, emerald scales dappled by amber flecks, roosted on a basalt perch nearby, tail twitching. She had accepted Martin the way a swan might a duckling, bemused yet fiercely protective. Tyrion patted the saddle's lacquered pommel. "Prepare her for dawn. We leave for Winterfell." Snow whipped across the airfield north of the castle by the time Sarah landed, wings beating flurries into spirals. Jon Snow approached wrapped in a white bearskin, ghost padding silent at his side. Lines at Jon's eyes had deepened. Streaks of silver threaded the direwolf's muzzle. They clasped forearms in greeting, old comrades bound by years of war and uneasy peace. "You felt it too," Jon said without preamble. Word reached the Lyceum in the feathers of a dead raven. Jon led them to the rebuilt Great Hall. Fire roared in twin hearths beneath banners showing Stark direwolf, entwined with Targaryen dragon and Lannister lion. Bran the Dreamer, still thin as sapling, pupils lost in swirling green sight, sat in a carved weirwood throne, fingers tracing patterns in air only he could see. Bran spoke the moment Tyrion bowed. "The spiral is not theirs alone. It is memory etched upon the bones of the world, a warning or a map." His voice shivered like wind chimes. "Something presses from the black between stars where even old gods whisper." Sir Davos, seated nearby, tugged beard with worry. "We've had reports. Lights moving beneath the ice of Long Lake, fish surfacing dead, eyes burned away." Tyrion rubbed temples. "We defeated the Night King. We thought his magic ended with him." "Magic is seldom slain," Bran replied softly. "Only redirected." Jon unfurled a parchment marked with scout notations. "I rode to the Fist of the First Men, where the Night Watch found ancient dragon glass. There's a sinkhole now, breathing steam. Inside, the earth glows faint blue. We couldn't descend. Ropes froze, then snapped." Martin Tyrell cleared his throat. "Could be geothermal vents, the sort that heat Dragon Mont. Only wrong color." "Then, whatever it is," Tyrion concluded, "if it grows, it will test the realm as winter once did." He met Jon's eyes. "We must see it ourselves." Within hours, Jon, Tyrion, Martin, and Sarah swept north, ghost loping ahead beneath. They camped at the Fist's base, the dragon's warmth melting snow into sludge. Dawn spilled thin light across shattered granite ring walls when they peered into the new abyss, a vast cavern exhaling pale mist. Within shimmered crystalline pylons arranged in spirals, each pulsating a ghostly cerulean. Tyrion sent echoes down the funnel. Something answered, a resonance felt in bone more than ear. Martin fixed a rope ladder. Jon descended first, boot soles crunching frost-encrusted stone. Tyrion followed, chest tight. The cavern floor resembled porous glass. Then, beneath its translucent surface swam shapes, shadowy silhouettes like fish glimpsed under ice, except impossibly large, each trailing luminous filaments. They circled lazily, unaware, or uncaring, of intruders. At the spiral's center rose a monolith, black stone veined by luminous fractures, shaped like twin blades fused at hilt. Tyrion brushed a finger along its surface. A moan rippled within. The shapes beneath ice converged, pressing faceless maws to the glass. Tyrion jerked back. Frost crept along his glove. Jon hefted Longclaw, Valyrian steel gleaming. If this is a seed of the others, might be best we shatter it now. Voice like rustled leaves floated from the shaft above. Bran's words carried upon strange wind. Strike too soon, and echoes ring twice as loud. Tyrion's mind raced. Bran often spoke in riddles. Perhaps the monolith absorbed magic. Destroying it could unleash storms anew. We need knowledge, not guesswork, he said. He unpacked copper tools laced with runes forged by dragonfire priests. With Martin's help, he chipped a sliver from the fracture, blue dust swirling as if alive, and sealed it within triple-layered vials. The ground trembled with distant roar, but stilled. They climbed out. Sirey shrieked skyward, feathers of snow shaking from her wings. The world felt slightly tilted, as though axis nudged by unseen hands. Back to the Lyceum, Tyrion said. Analysis first, hope later. Travel south was arduous. Storms brewed unnatural. Black thunderheads flecked with pale lightning like veins of bone in the sky. Sarah battled shearing winds. Twice Tyrion feared they'd crash. When at last King's Landing's domes glimmered through haze, the city lay cloaked not in snow, but white ash drifting from Dragonmount, though the volcano slumbered for centuries. Bells tolled alarm. Drogon prowled above the Red Keep, roaring. His eyes, once crimson, now flickered amethyst and coal, as if two hearts beat discordant rhythms beneath scales. Tyrion's gut knotted. He hurried to the throne room. Daenerys stood alone before the winged throne of accord. Shoulders bowed. She glanced up. Streaks of violet threaded her irises. The egg, she whispered. It calls to him, to all of them. Tyrion tried to speak, but a tremor shook the floor. Outside, distant cries rose. Lamps shattered. A tremble in air like chimes rattled bones. Something came through the hatch I opened beyond the wall, Daenerys said quietly. Not the dead. Something older. Tyrion's mind flashed to spirals beneath ice. We can still close it. A wry smile. Can mortals close doors gods carve? He grasped her hands. Together, perhaps we can build a new one that opens elsewhere. A path steering threat away. Ever the builder. She squeezed back, warmth fleeting. Our curator, I need that mind now. They summoned the small council amid chaos. Cersei arrived on foot, cloak dusted by ash, complaining but alive. Jaime supported her, missing 2 fingers after a smithy accident yet still steady. Samwell carried the vial of blue dust to an improvised laboratory beneath the keep. There, under flickering witchlight, he studied crystals that swam in liquid like living snowflakes. Heat from a brazier caused the vial to hum. Cold silenced it. Sam hypothesized the substance fed on temperature differential, growing when exposed to both wildfire heat and winter cold. Dragons, creatures of hot blood and scaled chill, radiated perfect sustenance. It wants equilibrium, Tyrion deduced, and life in this realm is its furnace. So starve it, Cersei suggested. Or feed it to death, Jaime countered. Give it more than it can hold until it bursts. Tyrion shook head. If we rupture it inside dragons, we lose them, and ourselves. He stared at Daenerys. But, perhaps, shift the feast elsewhere. He sketched rapidly. A plan to lure the spiral's seed, monolith shards included, through a gate of their own making, channeling essence into inert rock, far beneath the sea. The ancient Valyrians had carved firewells. Now they would carve an ice well. Dragonstone's volcano, Tyrion muttered. Its magma chambers intersect cold seawater caverns. If we drop the monolith there, pressure might lock it in eternal flux. Hot magma, cold ocean. Energy balanced, no growth. Then, Daenerys traced the diagram. And to move it, we require dragons willing to carry frostfire at great risk. Or one dragon, Tyrion said softly. Not yet hatched, unbound by old ties. Her gaze snapped to the atrium, to the egg. Tyrion felt torn between parent and steward. It isn't fair, he murmured. It is necessary, Daenerys answered. Night fell hard. Tyrion spent final hours beside the egg, recounting tales of heroes who chose duty. Maegor the Just, Nymeria of Rhoynar, even Tysha, his lost love whose courage never reached ballads. The shell glowed brighter, cracks spidering. At midnight, a chirrup echoed, small yet fierce. The egg split. A hatchling spilled onto cushions. Scales pearlescent white, edged with gold. Eyes molten sapphire. It sneezed a spark that left a singe across Tyrion's beard. Welcome, little paradox, he said, tears blurring sight. The dragon licked his palm, sensing warmth. They named it Alos, Old Valyrian for balance. Its wings bore delicate membranes shimmering between hot crimson veins and pale cold threads that emitted gentle mist. The perfect vessel to carry both ice and fire. Martin Tyrell arrived with a custom cradle saddle sized for fledglings. Together with Daenerys, they secured crystal vials of blue frostfire to golden clasps along Alos' belly. Tyrion climbed behind the dragon's neck, heart pounding. Cersei approached, eyes softer than years past. You always wanted wings, she whispered. More than wine, he quipped, though voice shook. Keep the realm breathing until I return. She squeezed his arm. Odd tender moment. I will. Dawn's faint blush colored the sky as Alos mounted the terrace parapet. Drogon roared, massive wings beating thrash of heated wind. He nudged the hatchling, protective yet urging. Alos chirruped, then leapt. They soared over Blackwater Bay. Sea wine cool against scales. Below, Sarah and 2 other dragons rose to flank them, escort. At Dragonstone the air trembled with seismic rumbles. Smoke spiraled from caldera vents. Tyrion guided Alos down lava-etched slopes to an obsidian platform carved by maester builders overnight using dragonglass picks enchanted by children of the forest. Bronze idea, remote but precise. They positioned the monolith shards atop the platform, runes glowing icy blue. Samwell's device, a helix of copper mirrors, focused sunlight onto wildfire lenses, igniting controlled flame. Heat licked shards. Cold sea spray from roaring vents kissed other sides. The shards vibrated. Hum swelling. Lift now, Daenerys commanded from Drogon's back. Sarah, Drogon, and the escort seized obsidian cables attached to the shards. They strained skyward. Shards dangling like lanterns of the abyss. Alos followed, claws barely clasping a smaller core piece. Tyrion felt chill seep through saddle into bones. Dragons beat wings across caldera mouth. Inside, lava churned, froth of magma and brine swirling into violent whirlpool. Bran, controlling runic pillars from Winterfell through Greensight, shifted ley lines, and the whirlpool inverted, pulling upward a column of steam laced with lightning. Release, Daenerys shouted. Dragons dropped shards into Maelstrom. Magma swallowed them. Ocean surge hissed, petrifying outer surfaces. A shockwave rippled. Tyrion clutched Alos as gravitational lurch dragged them earthward, then expelled them sky-high in geyser of scalding mist. Heat seared, but Alos instinctively spread wings, channeling energy through membranes. Gold veins glowed, white scales frosted. The hatchling's roar merged ice and flame into resonant chord that stilled the storm. Below, caldera sealed with sudden crust, obsidian sheen, trembling then settling. The spirals of lightning faded. Silence returned, broken only by dragons' labored breaths. In Tyrion's lap, the vial of frostfire cracked, released last plume that Alos inhaled. Eyes shifted, no longer molten sapphire alone but flecked with crimson. Perfect equilibrium, sealed inside a creature of new dawn. Daenerys circled, Drogon's expression unreadable. She called, "It is done, if the gods are just." "They rarely are," Tyrion replied, voice hoarse, "but sometimes they're tired." Months passed. The simmering of Dragonmont quieted. No blue light stirred beneath Long Lake. Ravens from the Fist reported the abyss iced over. Spiral pylons, dark and inert. Dawns warmed early. Blossoms nodded along the King's Road weeks ahead of schedule. Yet peace never idled. The Iron Bank now lobbied for dragon escorts to Qohor. Spice traders demanded tariffs cut in gratitude for their ships, lending ballast during crisis. Septons debated whether Alos represented divine reconciliation or abomination. Tyrion relinquished arch-curator duties temporarily to Martin, who flourished in role, converting reading rooms into workshops, where students built miniature wind-propelled vehicles and pump-driven fountains. Tyrion spent his days cataloging every record of the spiral phenomena, determined future generations not repeat ignorance. Alos grew swiftly. Within a year, it matched Sarah's wingspan, though retained curious duality, exhaling hot flame and cold mist in alternating breaths, depending on Tyrion's whispered commands. Children adored stories of the dragon that could paint rainbow fog across skies. Poets compared it to dawn meeting dusk. When Jon and Sansa journeyed south for Harvest Council, they found Tyrion and Alos performing aerial displays above the rebuilt Dragon Pit Amphitheater, where thousands cheered and studied. Jon laughed, a sound rare, and asked if direwolves might ride next. Tyrion promised to explore harness designs. Still, trouble brewed. Rumors spread of a sect called the Nullborn, men and women whose families perished during the Frostfire quake. They blamed dragons and magic both, a zeal for mundane order. Led by a charismatic former maester named Paxter Wilde, they preached abolition of sorcery, accusing Tyrion, Bran, and Daenerys of playing gods. Nullborn graffiti appeared on Lyceum walls. Spirals crossed by swords, the words "balance is slavery." Aulus returned from a dawn flight with crossbow bolts lodged in wing membrane. Survivable, but alarming. Martin doubled guard rotations. Daenerys dispatched unsullied undercover to infiltrate sect. Information trickled. Paxter planned to ignite a chain of wildfire kegs hidden beneath major libraries, blaming dragons to turn populace. He had bribed discontented alchemists, promising power when free of Targaryen overshadowing. Tyrion convened council at once. Cersei demanded immediate arrests, but Tyrion argued for exposure. Catch them planting charges, reveal deceit to populace, strip movement of martyrdom. Jaime volunteered to follow leads. His stealth and cynicism proved invaluable. Within days, Unsullied arrested conspirators smuggling kegs into Old Town's vault of whispering leaves. Public trial ensued under New Truth Tribunal. Bran's Weirwood bled red as evidence, revealing visions of Paxter negotiating with brave OC usurers, unhappy with falling interest. The sect's facade crumbled. Followers scattered. Yet from Cell, Paxter hissed prophecy at Tyrion. "You weave threads of dragonfire through every life. When one thread snaps, tapestry burns." Tyrion left disturbed. He found solace walking ramparts at dusk. Aulus glided overhead, casting dual shadow. One bright flame, one frost. He mused whether humanity could truly balance such extremes, or whether equilibrium remained an illusion. Year 25 dawned with festivals across realm. Markets bustled under paper lanterns shaped like lions and dragons. The throne of Accord gleamed newly polished for its silver jubilee. Tyrion addressed crowds assembled on Great Septi steps, rebuilt grander than before. He spoke of literacy rates tripled, famine halved, trade routes extended to Sithorios. He praised smiths who forged plowshares from melted swords, mothers who taught sons letters before shield drills, wildlings who planted orchards south of the Gift. And he warned, peace is not a crown resting. It is a muscle flexing. Neglect and it atrophies. As he concluded, bells rang in strange cadence. 3, slow, 3 quick, signal from harbor. Tyrion turned. Over masts of trading galleys rose a leviathan silhouette, caravel of Korth design but plated in pale metal that gleamed like moonlit ice. Its figurehead, a spiral. The ship unfurled black sails stitched with runes no maester could read. A hush fell. Daenerys stepped to Tyrion's side, Drogon looming behind. Lannister guards tightened ranks. Citizens retreated. A gangplank descended. From shadows emerged a tall woman robed in fabric like molten silver, face obscured by translucent veil. She carried a staff tipped by orb of swirling frostfire. Behind her glided retinues of pale-skinned courtiers, whose eyes flickered violet blue. The woman lowered hood. Her features were haunting mix of Valyrian sharpness and something otherworldly, hair long and white shot with midnight streaks. In fluent Valyrian she called, "Greetings, Queen Daenerys Stormborn, Kingbreaker, Peaceweaver. I am Elena of the Last Dawn, envoy of the Spiral Conclave." Silence. Tyrion stepped forward. "We know little of such a conclave." She smiled gently. "Because it did not exist until you birthed Alos. Your dragon sings across realms. We heard and answered." Daenerys' gaze hardened. "Your ship wears the mark of those who threaten my realm." "Marks change meaning," Elena replied. "Once your dragon signified fear, now hope. The spiral you fear is not curse but gateway to communion among worlds. We come seeking accord, to teach and learn likewise." Tyrion felt pivot of fate. He recalled Paxter's warning. Threads of dragonfire through every life. Was this snapped thread or woven continuation? He scanned Elena's retinue. No weapons visible, though Frostfire staff held power. He whispered to Daenerys, "Parley before panic." She nodded. They convened in the throne hall. Elena explained. The Spiral Conclave inhabited a liminal realm between planes, born when cosmic forces of cold and heat collided, an echo of Alos's dual nature. Tyrion's act of balancing Frostfire within Hatchling had sent ripples, bridging realities. Some Conclave factions, bewitched by equilibrium, wished peaceful exchange. Others hungered to siphon realms for energy. Elena led the former, but warned the latter gathered strength. She proposed alliance. Share knowledge of stabilizing spiral nodes, preventing destructive growth. In return, Conclave asked safe harbor for emissaries, seats in Lyceum, and opportunity to study dragons. Cersei scoffed. Bran quietly shivered. Daenerys asked, "What assurance you represent peace, not conquest?" Elena produced a crystal prism containing miniature galaxies swirling. "Break this, and rift collapses, sealing our realm away for 1,000 cycles, condemning my people but saving yours. Keep it. Trust we will not compel you to use." Negotiations spanned weeks. Public opinion divided. Scholars craved new knowledge. Small folk feared ghostly foreigners. Dragons sensed tension. Sira grew restless. Alos hovered above palace nights, emitting alternating bursts of steam and sparks. Tyrion recognized pattern, equilibrium teetering again. He crafted compromise. Conclave envoys may reside in Outer Ring Island off Blackwater Bay, under joint guard. They may lecture at Lyceum, under oath of no sorcery without consent. Dragons' interactions supervised. Elena accepted. Cersei not satisfied but relented when Jaime reminded her the realm thrived on bold bargains. The Conclave colony, later called Dawnspire, rose swiftly. Slender towers of ice glass that shimmered by day, absorbed heat by night, feeding energy into underwater turbines powering lantern grids across harbor. In exchange, Lyceum taught Conclave architecture principles of stone for fortitude. Westerosi masons learned to fuse frostglass into windows that neither shattered nor fogged. Alos formed immediate bond with Elena's own drake, a sleek creature of living quartz named Euxiros, capable of refracting sunlight into rainbows. Their aerial dances above city became nightly spectacle, knitting goodwill. Yet deep within Dawnspire, some of Elena's compatriots plotted. Tyrion's spies reported whispers of harnessing volcano network to birth superspires bridging realms permanently, risking rupture worse than any ice storm. Tyrion confronted Elena. She admitted dissent. Rift Keepers, led by stern mage Calith, believed only full merging would end cycle of imbalance. Before Council could react, Calith and followers seized control of Central Spire, taking Yexiros hostage. They triggered spiral vortex above bay. Clouds spinning, lightning veined with frostfire. Chaos erupted. Conclave and Westerosi guards skirmished on bridges of ice glass. Boats capsized as water formed standing waves. Drogon and Sira fought to contain storms. Alos dove toward Spire where Yexiros cried. Tyrion saddled Alos mid-flight, cold mist plastering hair to his face. They burst through frostglass walls into central chamber. Calith raised staff. Shards of frozen lightning speared air. Alos countered with swirl of fire and ice, melting bolts, then freezing steam into prism shield. Tyrion leapt to platform where Yexiros lay shackled by frost runes. He knew none of Conclave script. Instead he pressed Longclaw, loaned by Jon, against manacle heated by Alos's flame, then quickly cooled by mist. Metal shattered. Yexiros rose, shattered runes scattering shards of blue-hot ice that sliced through Rift Keeper's wards. Calith screamed, channeling vortex into single beam. Elena burst in, pleading. Calith struck her aside. Tyrion seized Prism. Elena had gifted, and after heartbeat of sorrow, hurled it into beam. Prism split energy, fracturing vortex pattern. Spiral inverted, sucking frostfire back through rift. Calith, unanchored, was drawn in, vanished into shrinking tear. With thunderclap, rift sealed. Dawnspire's top shattered, raining harmless crystal dust. Harbor winds stilled. Dragons circled quietly. Survivors wept in relief. Elena knelt by Tyrion. You saved both realms. She whispered. Not yet, he replied. He helped her stand. We must govern curiosity with conscience. She agreed. Rift Keepers disarmed. Conclave Council restructured under joint covenant, codified by Tyrion, Samwell, and Elena. Spiral studies to continue only with unanimous realm consent. Years turned once more. Tyrion grew stooped, hair white as parchment fringe, but wit sharp. Children of Dawnspire and Lyceum studied side by side, mastering arts of temperature craft that fertilized barren soils, cooled summer droughts, warmed northern hamlets. Alos ascended as symbol of union, his dual breath used in ceremonies, blessing new towns. Wicked with Syrah, producing clutch of translucent eggs, first cross-realm hybrids. Tyrion spent evenings dictating memoirs. He wrote of lion and dragon, ice and fire, the fragile arcs between. One night Bran visited through dream, murmuring prophecy. Stories never end, they evolve. Tyrion smiled in sleep. At 93, seated under arbor of red grapes in Lyceum courtyard, he watched younglings recite decimal tables while practicing spiral calligraphy. Alos lounged nearby, head massive as ox cart, yet eyes gentle. Tyrion reached to scratch. Scaled chin. Dragon hummed, releasing wisp of flame and frost that spun into rose-shaped cloud before dissipating. Martin Tyrell, now tall and dignified, approached with scroll. Our curator, he teased, old habit. We've mapped last spiral resonance node. Gateways stable. Good, Tyrion rasped. A world where gates open responsibly may never need walls. He closed eyes, feeling warmth of sun and cool breath of dragon. A perfect balance. Somewhere distant, bells rang. Not alarm, but celebration. Day of Accord Jubilee 45th. He listened until breath slowed. Heartbeat echoing library halls he built. He exhaled once more, a sigh between laughter and wonder, and slipped quietly from world of ink and flame. Alos lifted head, keening soft lament. Students paused, sensing hush. Then dragon spread wings, soared skyward, painting radiant arcs of frostfire across heavens. A farewell mosaic visible from Winterfell to Sunspear. Daenerys, silver-haired still though eyes lined by time, watched from dragonstone ramparts. She whispered, "Fly, my friend." Stories continue. Drogon rumbled a scent behind her. High above, Aulus' twin breaths mingled, shaping a luminous spiral that hovered then slowly unraveled into gentle snowfall, twinkling under sun. Each flake carried fleeting glimmer of gold and blue, settling on rooftops, fields, and sea. Tiny reminders that peace, like snow, blankets differences, yet nourishes soil beneath. Children ran to catch flakes on tongues. Scholars recorded phenomenon as Tyrion's benediction, first harmonious weather event triggered by dragon magic. Sailors swore the sea sang soft. Shepherds claimed lambs born that night bore star-shaped spots. The next morning Martin convened students in atrium, unveiling statue. Dwarf astride dragon hatchling, quill raised like torch. At the base, simple inscription. Reason dreams, courage dares, hope endures. As sunrise poured through stained glass domes, petals of light danced across pedestal. Beyond walls, lions basked beside dragons. Foreign towers resonated with ancient spires. And somewhere, in vast quiet between stars, other realms perhaps watched, learning that between roar of lion and blaze of dragon, a single voice could write chapters enough for worlds. The story moved on, but its heart, balanced forever in frost and fire, beat on in every treaty signed, every library built, every question whispered by a child daring to know. Thus the wheel remained broken, not because it no longer turned, but because hands of many guided its motion, each pushed gentler, wiser, carrying the promise that though peace might tilt, it would not topple, so long as minds remembered Tyrion Lannister's simple creed: build bridges, not thrones. All. Soft dawn mist hovered like breath over the Blackwater when Shira Martell eased herself onto the balcony outside the Lyceum's orrery, fingers still stained with ink from an all-night vigil spent copying Tyrion's final axioms. 3 months had passed since Tyrion Lannister's passing, and yet it felt as though the old lion's whispers still drifted through every colonnade, nudging quills, straightening spines, reminding each novice that ideas, not armies, were the marrow of peace. Below her, the courtyard already thrummed with life. Conclave apprentices in moon-silver mantles traded cordial bows with Westerosi scholars in dun wool and bar-striped sashes. Bakers hawked sweetbreads flecked with ground frost glass that crackled cool against the tongue. Violinists rehearsed a new anthem, the Spiral's Embrace, whose bright refrain tumbled above the clatter of morning prep. Shira breathed in wood smoke, sea brine, tang of blossoming Bell's Age, and turned the thin bronze coin Tyrion had given her the month before he died. One side the lion, the other a twining spiral encircling a hatchling. Its edges warmed at her touch, as though chiding her hesitation. She had copied his creed: build bridges, not thrones, 1,000 times. Yet today she would face her first tribunal as newly appointed curator of Concord, mediator between Dawnspire and King's Landing. And today the Nullborn, bruised but very much alive, meant to disrupt the foundation stone laying of the Grand Meridian Library, a joint endeavor spanning Lyceum calculus and conclave temperature craft. Behind her, footsteps padded soft as cat's paws. Martin Tyrell stepped through the arch, broad-shouldered now, copper curls wind-tossed, his leather apron dusted with powdered marble from the saddle workshop. "You're rehearsing speeches again," he said. Gentle accusation. She slipped the coin into her palm. "Only until my tongue stops tying itself in knots." Paxter's followers have grown craftier in Tyrion's absence. They talk about purity of silence, no magic, no dragons, no voices from beyond the mirror realm. A creed built upon subtracting wonder until only drab certainty remains. "Then?" Martin's smile crooked. Wonder seldom fits into neat ledgers. He leaned on the balustrade, gaze drifting to the harbor where Dawnspire's frost-glass towers caught sunrise and refracted it into lattices that danced across sailcloth. "I made refinements to Allah's harness," he added. "The anti-torsion girth will hold under trans-realm currents." You still plan to fly through? Eventually. The trace currents Alina mapped last season show a flux stable enough for brief passage. Proper survey could turn trade winds between worlds. His eyes lit with the same fever Tyrion once called the furnace of good mischief. But first, we finish the meridian. Shira clasped his roughened hand. And ensure it does not explode. They descended spiral stairs to the Hall of Echoes, whose mosaic floor depicted the cosmological wheel as Tyrion had reimagined it. Not a crushing device but a gyroscope balanced by opposing forces. Their conclave envoy Alina waited with her retinue. Aquiline, inscrutable, staff-topped with a new orb, the color of moonlit coral. She greeted them in common tongue flavored by lilting harmonics. Good morning, Curator, Master Tyrell. We stand ready to commence. She inclined her head toward two null-born observers present by right of public charter. Their gray sashes bore stitched black spirals cut by sword. The taller, Sir Brennus of Tarth, recently stripped of knighthood for torching a small dragonglass foundry, glared at Shira with furnace intensity. Transparency benefits all, Shira said. Voice steady. Scroll your objections. They'll be lodged and debated under open lanterns. Brennus grunted. His companion, a mouse-thin woman named Vessa, merely smiled without mirth. They processed through King's Gate, where townsfolk thronged behind rope lines, waving pennants woven half crimson gold, half frost blue. Aulos soared overhead, now as large as a river barge, scales shimmering gold at dawn yet drifting to milk white when shadows passed. Each breath alternated warm gust and cool mist, trailing ribbons of quicksilver cloud that children leapt to catch. At the Grand Meridian site, once a swath of charred hovels south of Flea Bottom, stone pylons rose in concentric circles, outer ring quarried from pale Tarthic marble, inner carved of violet basalt shipped from Valeria's shattered coasts. The central plinth lay bare, awaiting the dyad keystone, two interlocking wedges representing knowledge shared in trust. Shira mounted the speaker's dais, heart hammering. She pictured Tyrion standing there, wine cup in hand, grin crooked, coaxing lords and fishmongers alike into curiosity. She inhaled. Friends, she began, letting voice project like a clear bell. Today we plant root of a library whose branches shall span realms. Within its halls, a fisher's son may debate a conclave luminary. A baker's daughter may shape frostglass prototypes. A null-born scholar may critique dragon lore under tutelage of Dawnspire archivists. All truths welcome, tempered by reason, forged by empathy. Damn, Brennus spat. Truth shivers under dragon shadow. Murmurs rippled. Shira raised coin between fingers. This minted piece was struck last Feast of Peace to mark Tyrion's benediction, she said. One side shows the lion, symbol of mortal intellect. The other the spiral, symbol of cosmic dialogue. Neither side stands above. They revolve together. She flipped it. Sunlight flashed. That is balance. Applause fluttered. Alina stepped forward to present the conclave wedge. Frostglass shot through with threads of inert frostfire trapped in swirling stasis. Martin unveiled Lyceum counterpart, Lannister gold recast into thin-veined metal, etched with Tyrion's final theorem describing infinite vectors of compassion. When the two halves slid together, runes along the seam pulsed aquamarine. Somewhere Aulos roared approval. Sudden chill coiled through plaza, breath plumed white. Shira's vision swam. The keystone's pulse quickened, rune flashes throbbing like wounded heart. Alina gasped, stepping back. This resonance, too strong. On dais fringe, Vessa of the Nullborn produced a palm-sized conch wrought of smoky crystal. The cry of stillness rumored stolen from a conclave vault months before. She shattered it against pylon. A shockwave of absolute silence rippled outward, snuffing torches, stilling birds mid-cry. Runes on keystones spasmed, flipping from aquamarine to stark midnight. Frost raced along marble, cracking slabs. Energy backlashed skyward, splitting clouds in spiral eruption. Panic erupted. Brennus lunged toward Shira, blade of dull iron raised, crying, "End the weave!" Martin interposed. His arm caught flat of blade, leather bracer sparing flesh. He wrestled Brennus aside. Conclave guards tried to encircle Vesa, but she slipped crackling fissures where frostglass erupted like fangs. Above, Aulus banked hard. Frostfire breath slammed plaza rim, carving moat of steam-cooled glass to contain spreading freeze. Yet silence continued to expand like unseen beast. Musicians collapsed, clutching throats, words torn away. Only Vesa moved, eyes wide with exultation. Shira forced breath into frozen lungs. Soundless pain bloomed. She realized the cry of stillness devoured vibration. Speech, music, runic hum, starving all resonance and leaving only brittle stasis. If unchecked, Dawn Spire's temperature craft lattice might implode, swallowing harbor in void cold. She tapped sign language to Elena learned during long Lyceum nights. Counter-frequency. Elena nodded, lifted her staff. Orb atop bloomed fractal light, but emitted no sound. She could not shape waveform in vacuous silence. Shira remembered Tyrion's lesson. When tongues fail, write. She seized fallen mason's chisel, carved equation into marble at her feet. A resonance lattice derived from his last axioms, tuned opposite the cry's null pitch. Martin read, eyes dawning. He yanked flint sparker from belt, struck sparks against conclave wedge, tracing figures in blue flame arcs while Elena mirrored motions with frost. Where fireline met frost trail, vapor spiraled up, birthing thin tone at edge of hearing, like string plucked in cavern. The cry faltered, silence cracking. Brennus head-butted Martin, knocking him to knee. The tone wavered. Shira flung herself between Pillar and Brennus, catching his next swing on chisel's flat. Shock-numbed arm. Martin rolled. Shoulder-checked Brennus into fissure. Tone thickened. Aulus landed within ring, claws straddling keystone. He exhaled twin jet. One scalding plume, one icy gale, around circumference. Fire and frost looped into figure eight, singing shrill chord that slammed into vacuum. Stillness shattered like crystal. Plaza rang with thunder's return. But the released resonance funneled upward, punching horror through sky. In its wake, a rift winked, ragged spiral rimmed with violet lightning. Through breach shimmered blackened silhouettes of Riftkeeper war arcs, long exiled in Calith's wake. Nullborn plan obvious. Starve realms sound to weaken governance, invite Riftkeeper conquest to purge magic for their own dominion. No time for counsel. Elena locked gaze with Shira. We must seal. I'll fly, Shira answered. She vaulted onto Aulus's saddle, Martin scrambling behind though arm bled. Aulus leapt, wings hammering gust that toppled still smoldering torch racks. They surged skyborne. Spiral rift looming like cosmic wound. War arcs, floating citadels studded with frost lances, began descent. Hull runes, sizzling blue-black. Aulus spiraled up opposing current. Shira felt saddle strap strain. Martin adjusted torsion girth midair. As they breached rift fringe, searing cold, stabbed lungs. Riftkeeper flagship opened ventral hatch. Beam of congealed frostfire lanced toward them. Aulus rolled, plume of balanced breath deflecting beam into spray of prismatic shards. They cut wing membrane, but dragon pressed on. Within rift, gravity warped. Stars curved like molten glass trails. At core hovered Heart's Heart, a crystal engine siphoning differential between realms. Tyrion's journals warned such constructs fed endlessly, then split reality seams. Shira unclasped satchel of resonance symbols, thin discs forged by Edric Storm to shatter at specific harmonic. She and Martin each gripped half. Timing breath to dragon's wingbeat, they hurled discs opposite arcs so they collided upon Heart's hard surface. Impact birthed chord of such piercing clarity that war arc hulls rang like gongs. Heart's heart fissured, leaking torrents of colorless flame sprayed with motes of memory. Faces, songs, laughter, sucked from conclave archives, stolen by riftkeepers. Arc lances fired again. Alos tucked wings, dived, outtracing shards of frozen light. Behind them Heart's core imploded inward with sigh, vacuum snapping rift edges shut like book slammed. War Arc's nearest seam sheared in half, vanishing mid-keening. Remaining vessels veered, powerless without engine's guidance, tumbling into uncharted void. Breach sealed, silence stark. Aulos coasted down through thinning cloud. Plaza cheers rising. But below, null-born militants had breached Lyceum archives, igniting wildfire casks stolen from forgotten Mad King Tro. Green tongues licked library's western wing, threatening Tyrion's original manuscripts. Shira felt dragon fatigue. Aulos could not quell wildfire with frostfire safely. Elena's conclave guardians formed bucket lines of mist bladders to smother smaller blazes, but green flame fed on air. Martin scanned rooftops, then elbowed Shira. Resonance cannons. They had prototypes, copper tubes using conclave quartz crystals to project shockwaves, tuned to destabilize wildfire without explosion. Stored in workshop cellar, Dardai. Shira dispatched courtyard runners. Soon students wheeled cannons afield. Martin calibrated crystals, adjusting for flame's wine pitch. At his nod, they fired. Conical blasts of rippling air, invisible, yet potent, slammed into green plumes, unraveling molecular bonds. Fire guttered into acrid smoke. Second volley extinguished pockets hugging oak shelves. A final volley returned hush. Ash fluttered around gutted stacks. Shira ventured into charred wing. Pages fluttered, black-edged yet legible. Tyrion's earliest margin note survived, miraculously spared. Ink of iron gall resisting heat. She knelt. Heart sagging with gratitude. In aftermath, council tribunal convened above shattered keystone. Vessa and Brennus, captured, stood trial beneath storm-forged banners. Evidence irrefutable. Packed with rift keepers, sabotage of silence. Yet Shira argued for tempered judgment. Banishment to remote monasteries where they must copy works they tried to destroy. Many balked. Calls for execution echoed. Then Elena stepped forward, holding prism forged from heart-shard fragments, now rendered inert. She offered it to council. Cycle of revenge extends spiral of violence. She said, we sever, by transforming foes into stewards of what they feared. The vote tallied narrow but in favor. Nullborn zeal would wither copying treatises on harmony day after day. Work on Grand Meridian resumed. This time Keystone redesigned. Instead of 2 halves, 4. Lyceum gold, conclave frost glass, Dawn Spire basalt, and humble river clay molded by smallfolk guild. Each quarter engraved with phrase Tyrion once penned in jest but truth. Books weigh less than chains. When slotted, runes glowed gentle amber, a color of hearth, not hunger. Balanced through multiplicity, not binary opposition. Weeks later, dedication day dawned bright. Shira delivered speech shorter, steadier, dark-eyed. She ended with memory. Tyrion smuggling jam tarts to underfed pupils, saying knowledge tastes sweeter with pastry. Bakers distributed jam tarts to crowd. Laughter rose, sticky and sincere. That evening, she climbed Lyceum Tower. Coin warm in fingers. Aulos perched on parapet. Martin seated against scale, flank tuning lute strings made from frostglass thread. Stars spilled across velvet sky, uninterested in men's wars. What now? She mused. Martin strummed chord shimmering between heat and chill. We keep weaving. Doors will open. Storms will test hinges, but we learned hinges can outlast gales if forged from many metals. She flipped coin. It spun, caught starlight, disappeared, then clinked onto stone, landed not on lion nor spiral but edge, balanced impossibly. She laughed, leaving it spinning as she climbed onto saddle beside him. Aulos launched. Below, Meridian's lanterns outlined perfect gyroscope. Above, constellations bending over worlds. The dragon banked west, frost and flame tracing twin arcs that merged into white gold ribbon across firmament, A path, not a wall. People raised eyes, saw ribbon, felt hearts steady. For within it, fluttered echo of lions' laughter, proof that even a small man's dream could light heavens and keep spiral turning in gentle hands. In. The wind over the crownlands smelled of fresh-turned soil and distant thunder, as Shira Martell guided Alos west beyond the glimmering ribbon of frostfire he had painted across the sky. Beneath them, the Roserad traced a pale scar through rolling orchards where mid-spring blossoms fluttered like banners, and every mile or so, a hamlet's single bell rang in greeting. News of the Meridian calamity had already passed in murmured warnings from stable to inn to counting house, yet the bells pealed not from fear, but from that uneasy reverence men give the thunderhead. They knew havoc had stalked the capital, and they rang for the miracle that it had broken without devouring them. Shira felt each chime in her ribs. Half blessing, half burden. Tyrion would have raised a goblet, toasted the courage of the bakers who doused the last sparks, and ordered another round of tarts for everyone. But Tyrion was ash among the roses now, and she rode his legacy like a blade balanced on breath. Alos banked low above Golden Grove's fields, where green vines curled round new trellises of frostglass, imported at ruinous cost from Dawnspire. The dual lattice trapped cool night vapors, saved them for sun's rise, and drought-proofed the grapes, a trick wine-growers once called sorcery, and now hailed as prudent husbandry. On a gentle ridge overlooking silver-leafed olive rows stood the newly raised school of Graft, 3 domes of milky quartz, abutting a crooked sept older than Egan's conquest. Shira touched Alos' neck. The dragon warbled, billowing mist that fell as dew on rose below, and circled to land in the commons. Children spilled from doorways clutching styluses of bone and reed paper, scribbled with grafting diagrams. They cheered. Some too young to remember that dragons had ever been monsters. She dismounted, waved away officious tutors, and walked alone toward the septat. Inside, the air smelled of dust and oil and quiet. At the far altar knelt Vela Tyrell, once Vessa of the Nullborn, now shorn of zealot braids, and clad in plain gardener's green. She trimmed candlewicks with careful scissors, fingers steady. When she sensed Shira, she rose, eyes soft as peeled bark. They had not spoken since tribunal, yet letters had passed. Vela's copies of treatises on acoustics annotated in tiny, precise hand. Shira's return notes praising the question marks more than the conclusions. Vela bowed. "I feared you would not come," she said. "I feared I would come too soon." Shira answered. "You asked for scrolls on feedback loops. I bring them, and a favor." Vela's eyebrow quirked at the coin Shira laid on the altar. Tyrion's lion spiral still balanced on its edge. "It shouldn't stay upright," Vela murmured. "Balance rarely should." Shira replied. "Yet here it is. I need you to study why. We thought the cry of stillness fed on vibration only, but the coin did not fall even when sound died. Something in the alloy, perhaps something else. If we understand, we may temper the silent weapon should its shards survive." "Then?" Vela's face tightened at old shame. "I will test densities, harmonics, phase lattices." She touched the coin gingerly, as if fearing judgment. "And I will pray the answer serves more than penance. Knowledge always serves more than penance." Shira said. "It serves tomorrow." Outside, Alos trumpeting drew them to the threshold. A rider galloped the road. A tall man in snowfox cloak, Jon Snow himself, ghost loping at heel. His arrival stirred the students. Their cheers swelled as Shira met him at the pasture gate. His expression was grave. "White Harbor's beacon burned green last night," he said without preamble. "Not wildfire. Frostfire. Something tore the sea north of Skagos, and fishermen swear the water froze in a ring 5 leagues wide. Ships caught inside turned glassy, as if carved from diamond crews preserved alive but unmoving. Another rift. Shira whispered. Jon nodded. Bran saw the flash from Winterfell's Godswood, says it sang at a frequency he felt in his teeth. A chill crawled Shira's neck. The Rift Keepers we routed are gone. Who else could wield such craft? Bran doesn't think it mortal. Jon's mouth was a thin line. He dreamt of tides, made of mirrors, entities that move by reflection. When Alos sealed the last tier, he may have alerted deeper realms. Shira closed eyes, recalling Tyrion's joking admonition. Every lock invites a cleverer thief. We'll need Elena's counsel, she said, and Samwell's seaworthy runships. She glanced at Vela, who still cradled the coin, and scholars unafraid of past mistakes. Vela dipped head. Send me the samples. I'll meet you at White Harbor with results. That night, Shira and Martin raced Dawn aboard Alos to the capital, summoning Conclave and Crown to emergency parlor. Elena arrived first, staff orb dimmed out of respect for mortal Dawn. Samwell came sweating from quays after unloading barrels of dragonglass salted brewed with archmasters. Queen Daenerys stepped from shadowed colonnade in riding leathers scorched by Drogon's heat. She had flown through the dark to be present before the sun. Only Cersei sent no envoy. Word said she lay sick behind the rock's basalt gates, refusing healers and letters alike. Jon paced the map table, where frostglass tiles now marked new threat zones. Skagos Ring of Ice, twin mirror eddies at Pentos and Old Volantis, lesser anomalies pulsing faint along Summer Sea. Elena traced each swirl with slim finger. These read not as portals but as diaphragms, she said. Breathing structures. Something is inhaling realms, exhaling stillness. Now, Samwell coughed. If they breathe, we might choke them. Daenerys arched brow. Ain. Sam spread Horal diagrams, pointed to nodes where frostfire and magma lines bent. Old Town drilled thermal vents to power distilleries. Dawnspire shapes temperature. We sync vent eruptions with conclave coolants, drive shockwave opposite inhalation. Like pressing palm to bellows valve. Shatter them? Shira asked. Seal them long enough to study, Sam replied. Destroy blindly, and we risk vengeance from what lies deeper. Elena nodded. The conclave can tune lattice pillars to your vents. She met Daenerys' gaze. But we'll need Drogon's amplitude. Pure dragon roar resonates across spectral band. Daenerys smiled ruefully. He will be delighted. Martin cleared his throat, flexing new brace on bruised arm. Resonance cannons lacked range for harbor breach. I've designed magnorails using frostglass coils. They'll launch resonance darts from shore batteries. I just need ore. A lot of ore? Shira thought of Lannister mines whose veins ran red with rust and abandonment. Tyrion had joked that even gold dragons would one day become relics. Now their caverns might birth weapons for cosmic seals. I'll ride to the rock, she said. Daenerys studied her a moment, then nodded. Take Alos and Jon. Drogon and I will lead the vent assault north when cannons are ready. 3 days later, Alos set down on crags south of Casterly Rock. Gull cries pierced rolling fog. The great fortress rose like a lion crouched on cliff, its casements shuttered, banners limp. No wardens greeted them. Jon strode to iron-bust gates and hammered. Ghosts growl low beside him. Minutes bled before a narrow view slit grated open. Yellow eyes peered, frightened. Lady Cersei sees no one, a voice rasped. Tell her Shira Martell bears her brother's final request, Shira said. She held coin under slit. The lion spiral winked. The eyes flinched. The gate remained barred. But a side sallowport creaked. An aged steward led them through grim antechambers reeking of sour wine. Servants whispered that the lioness had not trod beyond solar for moons, fearing realms' new magics. They climbed spiral stairs whose once polished banisters tarnished from neglect. Cersei waited in a chair of redwood beneath faded tapestries. Her hair, once golden, had silvered to moonlight, her cheeks hollowed. Yet the stare that seared Shira pulsed undimmed. Empty goblet dangled from slack hand. She did not rise. I know what you want, she said hoarsely. Gold veins, already half stripped to feed your dragon colleges. Now more. Shira inclined head. Gold, yes, but principally iron and quartz. Or to forge rails that may save every child between here and Korth, including Lannister bastards I know you visit at the orphanarium each year. Cersei's eyes narrowed. Ace, if you care for my charity. I care for results, Shira said. She placed Tyrion's coin on the armrest. Your brother's creed survived null-born fire because this alloy refused silence. He believed the rocks or still carried song. Lend its voice once more. Cersei fingered coin, lip trembling. Tyrion always lectured of bridges while I built walls. Walls crumbled. I have little left but shame. She swallowed, blinked hard. Tears or rage, Shira could not say. Take your oar. But if this fails and realms crack, let history curse my name last. I tire of carrying blame for men who play gods. Nenden Nawao. Shira bowed. History will remember the lioness who roared when it mattered. They spent that night drafting cavern requisitions, Jon mediating when Cersei's temper flared. Before dawn, Shira visited forge levels where miners loaded ore carts. She watched slag sparks dance like captive stars, remembered Tyrion's delight in metaphor. She whispered promise into smelting fumes. Bridge will hold. Outside ghost whined. Storm clouds rolled from east, although winds blew west. Weather twisted by mirror breaches. Shira mounted Alos. Jon climbed behind, sending Raven ahead to Queen. Within fortnight, resonance batteries ringed Skagos breach. Dawn spire vent chambers thrummed. Drogon circled above boiling sea. At Sam's signal, steam lances erupted from Old Town vents, while Dawn spire towers exhaled calculated cold. The ring of frozen ships groaned. Fissures crawling glass hulls. Mirrors beneath water flexed like breathing gills. Inhalation shuddered. Martin's magnets loosed first volley. Darts of obsidian-laced iron speared breach columns, each detonating with cord of Tyrion's theorem, etched onto metal. Shockwave rippled. Water turned to crystalline mist. Inside rift belly, unseen entity recoiled. Bran, watching through ravens, felt tendon of world slacken. But the breach began to spin, drawing curses from sailors whose decks cracked anew. Drogon dove, roar, deep as world heart. Aulus followed, breaths weaving contrapuntal braid. Fire, frost, fire. The spin faltered, collapsed inward. The frozen ships shattered to shards, then thawed. Wood and men restored mid-air, splashing into warming tide. Cheers rose. Ring sealed, sky cleared, but Bran's voice echoed through weirwood nets. 3 more breathers woke in summer sea. Daenerys wiped soot from brow, eyes fierce. This is only opening stanza, she said. We need anthem. Months blurred to campaigns of sealing. Crews crisscrossed seas on rune ships. Alos and Drogon became twin beacons. Conclave and Lyceum, standardized breach barometers posted on every lighthouse. Bells tolled different pitches to warn of inhale or exhale swells. Merchant captains learned to furl sails and sing counter-shanties that steadied timbers. Still, some rifts eluded. High in sky above Boneway Desert a spiral opened, swallowing 20 sky swallows in blink. Deep beneath Wintertown wells another birthed frostweb bloom that drank torchlight. Scholars theorized entity, sought specific resonance to anchor fully. Jon called council at Winterfell to propose daring assault. Instead of sealing each mouth, offer one controlled portal inside uninhabited dominion, an echo veil east of the Shadowlands, then lock all others by starving entity of variance. Daenerys weighed risk, luring cosmic predator like tethering kraken to skiff. Shira argued Tyrion would attempt negotiation, understand unknown before striking. Elena offered Conclave cipher maps of echo veil threads. The vote split until Bran spoke through Hearttree, voice layered with children of forest timbre. Choose invitation over evasion, else endless chase. Plan set. Builders erected massive compass of resonance pylons at Echo Vale's center, carved from all 4 meridian materials. Martin engineered gyroscope rings able to spin portals breath into laminar column upward. Sam brewed capstone of fired clay seeded with weirwood dust, organic anchor to earth realm. Drogon and Alos would infuse column with synchronized roar. Conclave weavers set barrier nets to funnel entity into column. Night before activation, Shira walked valley where basalt pillars rose like harps. She carried Tyrion's coin still balanced on edge, never once toppling though seasons shifted. She set it atop water basin, watched ripples hold it upright. Martin found her. "I worry," he said. "Coin stands because unseen forces keep it. If we tamper, balance might tip." She smiled. "Then we brace beneath, not above." She kissed him, tasting forge smoke. They wrote final margin on blueprint. Bridges must flex. Activation day dawned purple with east wind dust. Drogon and Alos perched on opposite cliffs. Gyroscope spun. Column birthed. A shadow, formless, kaleidoscopic, slid from sky seam into rising funnel, sending shards of reflection skittering across valley. Earth quaked, but anchor held. Entity's substance churned. Not malice, not mercy. Vast curiosity flavorless as snow. Shira stepped inside ring, voice amplified through pylons. She recited library charter, languages braided. Common, Valyrian, conclave harmonic, and silent sign woven with fingers. Entity rippled, mirrored her gestures. Attempt at understanding. Runes along columns warmed honey gold. Bran's voice drifted through tree root network. "It listens." Shira tossed coin toward vortex. Edge glimmered as it touched reflective skin, then sunk slowly. Absorbed. Column stilled. Mirrors fused to opalescent shell encasing shadow. Motion calm to pulsing glow. Runes translated across surfaces. Multi-tonal symphony that Sam later named First Concord. Entity accepted anchor, pledged to breathe where compass allowed, exchanging knowledge not hunger. In return, realms promised sound, song, speech, roar, to feed its needs safely. Compass sealed, rifts worldwide sagged shut. Bells silent, seas quiet. But years folded into tapestry of routine partnership. Compass City, Concordia, grew round anchor shell, half architecture, half living crystal taught by entity. Through translucent veins scholars glimpsed shifting constellations of memory. Lost Valyrian epics, Dawn Age songs, even faint echoes of Tyrion's laughter. Schools taught children to hum tritones at sunset, a lullaby for cosmic friend they nicknamed Echo. Shira served as first voice of Concordia, traveling between capitals in airships powered by balanced engines, adapting Alos' breath, patterned pattern. Martin became master artificer, his rails now launching cargo pods between continents. He kept Alos' saddle polished, though Dragon bore him less. Alos preferred soaring with young brood hatched from Yuxiros line, painting twilight skies with frost-fire calligraphy. Cersei died quietly, leaving mines deeded to Lyceum Trust. Her last letter to Shira read only, "Walls crumble, bridges echo. Tell him I tried." On 20th anniversary of Compass, a grand convocation filled Valley of Harps. Golden Company of historians unveiled comprehensive chronicle, The Lion Spiral, or treatise on peace through unsatisfied curiosity. The preface quoted Tyrion, "May our questions outrun our fears." Beneath, etched in small hand, Vela's commentary, "And may our answers sow sweeter questions." Shira stood before shimmering shell of echo. She laid fearless palm to its surface. Warmth greeted her. Inside matrix, coin rotated eternally. Still edge balanced, but now wreathed in luminous script, proof equilibrium lives when given space to dance. Night fell. Thousands gathered to sing lullaby of 3 worlds, common tongues, conclave harmonics, and whispering rustle of leaves from saplings grown of weirwood and frost-glass hybrid. Drogon, ancient now, and Alos, resplendent, circled anchor, breaths intertwining into aurora that bled across vault of heaven. When the final note faded, gentle hush remained. Not silence of void, but pregnant hush of quill poised before next line. Shira closed eyes, felt Valley inhale, exhale. Somewhere in that breath, she heard Tyrion chuckle, sounding utterly satisfied. And the wheel, as he promised, kept turning. But it turned like a child's windmill now, catching breezes of wonder, grinding no one's bones, propelled instead by songs sung in more colors than any single realm had ever dared imagine.